lost mine in the sand. Where will you stand?
And here we go again, Israel update. And I know where Hanok's at, but I'm not saying. There's a little something there, that's giving him away. He has
Yeah,
company.
yeah. After all this traveling, Mike, I think people do want to give me away. So what can I say? Uh, Lots going on.
Yeah, there is.
It's when you're in three st different states in 7 days, it's a little disorienting.
Yeah, been there.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I
Uh,
actually, I think it might have been Colorado where I was standing and I was speaking. I said right here and I had no clue where I was. So I know where you're at there.
you know, People are very unforgiving when they're on a flight. I find this at Southwest, when they say, welcome to flight, 1202 to Chicago's Midway Airport, and instead we're going to Denver International. But hey, why
Whatever.
does it matter?
The Walmart looks the same no matter where. All right, go
Yeah.
for it.
So one of the things that I've been sharing with people at each location is when it's time for me to call it a night, and I don't sleep well, but when it's time for me to get into bed, I kind of reassure myself that today was crazy, but tomorrow can't be as bad. And literally every day in running through, all the Israeli news sources,
Yeah,
I'm sitting saying, and I've got the background, I've got the historical background for the last 50 years. I've been saying all this stuff, and it's kind of like, what's happening?
yeah,
And right now, everything's about as clear as mud. What is crystal clear, though, is how the free world, except for the United States government, seems to be rising and uniting absolutely against Israel.
totally and completely.
Um, you've got Norway, which is involved with a mega rather, pardon me, investment fund that is cutting out Israel. You've got France, which of course was the first ones to say they're going to declare a Palestine state. Where? What borders? Why? Well, why is because they're scared. But just in the last 2 days, it was announced that France has been denying visas for El Al security personnel.
Mhm.
If El Al security personnel can't get visas to come into France, El Al will not be able to fly from Paris. France is
Yeah,
the third largest Jewish community in the entire world. It's about 440,000 Jews in France.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Um, El Al plane is landing in Paris the other day. The air air traffic controller, starts shouting, "Free Palestine." Um,
I was going to bring that one up because I'm kind of, kind
yeah,
of dear.
close to heart.
That's a job that's kind of dear to my heart. For that to happen, I mean, the number of rules that were broken to make a statement like that when an El Al jet is on final approach and you decide to key the microphone and just say "Free Palestine." What that must have done to the pilots that they had to just look at each other like, wait a minute, what in the world is going on? Oh, by the way, we have to land this plane. It is said that that person was suspended. I will pretty much go out on a limb and tell you that suspended was for a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it's the entire world has gone insane, and where Israel has successfully fought on 7 fronts simultaneously. The front that we have failed most miserably is in public relations.
Absolutely. Yes.
Even though,
Totally
for
agree.
instance, it's been proven that the photographs of allegedly hungry kids in Gaza was staged, no one cares. There's no takebacks. It's like the famous story early in the war. Israeli airstrike hits hospital, 500 dead.
Yeah.
The first thing I said was, having been in New York on 9/11, it took a while. You can't tell instantly
Yeah.
how many people are killed. And it wasn't an Israeli airstrike. It was a terrorist missile that fell short. It didn't even hit the hospital. It hit the hospital parking lot, but no one cares. There are no takebacks. In
I
the
would,
eyes of the world, Israel is committing genocide. We're ethnically cleansing. We're starving people. And shockingly, just about everyone believes it.
you said on seven fronts, and then you mentioned the media. Are you counting the media as one of those fronts?
No,
Okay.
no, totally separate.
So I'd like to change this narrative a little bit, that Israel has been fighting on eight fronts. The media being the one that we can discuss how the airstrikes in Iran, we can discuss the Iron Dome, all of these different things that have been saving thousands and thousands of lives, and the success that Israel has had in the seven fronts. But I think you would probably agree. The one front that has been the most important is the one that Israel has totally and completely lost because, and again, I'm not there. I don't have the citizenship you do. I don't have the right really to say this, but Israel has been the worst in public relationships in the last 2 years in what I've seen. They are
Without a
reactionary.
doubt.
There is
Without a
there
doubt.
is no there is no one standing up and taking this thing on in a proactive stance. And therefore, they have lost the eighth front, the media.
We had a great spokesperson, Elon Levy, and he was dismissed by the Prime Minister's office.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I've noticed, I can tell when I'm getting under someone's skin. I can. I know I seem oblivious to it, but I'm well aware of it. Um, but the one thing that astounds me is, and it's the one thing that I've gotten pushback on, and it's not unique to this trip. People really have responded well to what I've shared, except if there's a criticism at all of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah.
I could more readily question actions of President Trump than I can of Netanyahu. Any mention of Bibi, I see a switch go off, and people have kind of, pulled me aside and said, listen, really, really love what you had to say, but do you have to criticize Netanyahu? And how can you look at this war and all the elements of public relations wrapped around it and not criticize? I mean, here's a guy who, when he was asked recently, what are your biggest regrets? Not a word about the war, only what has affected his wife, Sarah. He's a nationally, and again, we have a perfect comparison in Israel. We go back to the Yom Kippur War, which was our biggest military intelligence and military preparedness disaster until this war. Golda Meir totally acquitted by the Commission of Inquiry. By the way, we had a full Commission of Inquiry. Whether we'll ever have one now remains
But
to be seen.
I doubt it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Um, she was acquitted, but she resigned because she said she was the prime minister. She was the one responsible. But you know what? It is what it is. And I don't understand what it is about Netanyahu that people, and again, I'm speaking to Christians, but primarily I'm speaking to Messianic and Hebrew roots people. What it is that they've got with Netanyahu, I'm clueless. I really am clueless.
As you're talking about it, I mean, I've been around this for a while, and I go back to the early days of this Messianic Hebrew roots walk for me. Bibi Netanyahu was in office.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
that's just crazy. But he was actually out of office for a while during that time. But I think that there is, and this is true not only of Bibi Netanyahu, but this is true of politicians themselves, that people put some kind of a messiah complex upon them. Now, some of them have a messiah complex, but they
yeah.
tend to look at these politicians as messiahs.
I think so.
I
I think
was in
so.
the room, you know this, with Bibi Netanyahu
Yeah,
back in those days in the early 2000s. This man was a statesman. He may have been corrupt at that time, but I guarantee he commanded a room.
yeah.
Whether he was right or wrong, he commanded a room. Today, I've said it openly. I see him as a lapdog. There's not, but once you put that person up on that pedestal and you defend them on that pedestal, then when they're wrong, it's about you saying, "Wait a minute, I was wrong in following this person this way."
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, Hanok. It doesn't matter what the truth is. You know that. I know that. We can talk
No, it doesn't.
about, International Christian Fellowship or International Fellowship of Christians and Jews all day long, and people will give to this organization.
Still
Though
going to.
I see it as a scam. I can name people, name organizations that people give to. Oh, they're doing such a wonderful work. No, they're not.
No.
No, they're not. And I can prove it. But once a person makes the decision to come
Yeah.
back and say I was wrong about something, is is part of the human psyche.
Tied in with that is even amongst those that love Israel, and admittedly speaking, I speak to a self-selected population. Congregations that invite me, and it's funny, every once in a while someone will say, why don't you go here or why don't you go there? I can only go where I'm invited. It's kind of funny the way that works,
Yeah,
you know?
it is. Yeah.
Okay. So it's congregations that are at least at the minimum positive about the types of things I share. And when people in a congregation don't want to come to hear me, what I like to refer to as the Jew factor, they boycott it. It's happened.
Mhm.
We're both aware of it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But what astounds me is how many times I've heard already this trip, well, didn't the government of Israel intentionally stand down on October 7th and let this happen? Now,
To take over Gaza.
yeah. Okay. So you see, this whole thing. Now, I voted in 9 national elections in Israel within the 16 years I've been an Israeli, and I have never voted for Likud. And just to remind people, we don't vote for individuals, we vote for parties. Benjamin Netanyahu is the chairman of the Likud. Okay. And by the way, when people say, well, they won the majority, no, Likud got 37% in the last election,
Yeah.
but it's coalition. But bear with me, folks, because I don't understand what it is at times that people don't understand. I'm astounded that they would think that Netanyahu would allow 1,200 Israelis to be slaughtered in the most horrific manner for some kind of political reason. I think I really, I can't understand that people would think that. But it could only be a possibility if there was a desire and a will to actually ethnically cleanse Gaza and resettle it with Jewish communities. Neither of those two elements are true or possible.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my brain around. I mean, it's as astounding to me as the 8 different people during my last speaking tour that came over to me and said, I heard President Trump is going to be building the third temple.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't know. You know, you talk about the boy, you know, the boycott the Jew. Interesting enough, I've had people that have boycotted me because of I hang out with a Jew. But
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
it's beyond craziness in our day. Again, the sifting out that's happening, and I tend to I had a discussion with a mutual friend of ours the other day, and I think that we're entering into a place in this, and I'm not saying this prophetically, um, but I believe that these fall festivals, there is going to be a change spiritually in these festivals. And if I'm right in this, this is going to be a time in which people will either be joining in or left behind. And it may be, I would go so far as to say, and this is just, again, this is just my belief. This is
right.
not anything that, thus says whatever, um, that there's coming a time in which your decision will be in stone. And your decision will be one that is at least very difficult to change, but your decision will become your decision. You will make a to go to Josh Waller's
It's
song
a
that we entered
choice.
in with.
Yeah,
You're going to make a decision which side of the line you're going to stand on. And when you make that decision, you're going to look back at that line and figure out who built a wall there. I can't change.
yeah.
I don't
It's
know. We'll see.
it's really astounding.
It is.
Um, again, now we've got this what I refer to as the hokey pokey strategy.
Yeah.
We're going in, we're not going in. We're 2 steps in, we're not going in. We're taking over Gaza City. And the hysterical reaction on the part of Western democracies of like, you can't go into Gaza. Does no one remember you can't go into Rafah? No, all eyes on Rafah. And no one is talking about the hostages. It's totally and again, then in Israel, there's a move to have a national strike. And as one of the family members of one of the hostages said, how will going on strike free our hostages, free my family member? It's insane. But it's the idea that if you pressure Netanyahu, that somehow there'll be a deal. People don't seem to realize Macron, the moron from France, announces that they're going to recognize a Palestine that very same day Hamas cut off negotiations. They don't see a correlation.
No.
They don't see that Hamas has in their minds nothing but time on their side.
I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that, and maybe this is actually true with some Israeli politicians, they don't understand the Middle Eastern life.
Yeah.
They don't understand some things that are very obvious in the Middle East that are not in Western culture. Uh, the that mindset is usually totally opposite. Now, to give you an idea of this, Kathy and I were watching a series last night. We've kind of gone back to it just for the sake of having something to turn my brain off for a little while, and they showed a video of back in the day of it was the Oslo Accords with Ehud Barak and Yasser Arafat. Which meeting would that have been in?
No, no, no. If it that was that was prior to Oslo. That
Yeah,
was one of the whether the Camp David
yeah, okay, yeah,
meetings and
yeah. That was the one.
all
Yeah,
these ridiculous
that was
things.
the one.
We
Okay.
offered everything.
So what they showed was there was actually a little fight, a little tussle that went on between Barack and Yasser Arafat of who would go through the door into the building first.
Yeah,
And it was really it was kind of funny.
yeah,
But what was explained there is that in that culture, the person of honor goes through the door last. The strongest man goes through the door last. Now, in our culture, you open a door and let somebody else go through first,
yeah. You're
showing
considered
honor
polite.
to
Yeah,
that person. It's exactly the opposite
right.
in their culture. And so this is something that has been the failure of Bibi Netanyahu and going back with others of showing strength, putting Israel first. Trump is catches so much flack about his statement, "Put America first." Like that's a bad thing. I just don't understand that. Bibi Netanyahu, I have never once seen him put Israel first.
You know, again, the constructive comments that I've gotten um, are to not talk about Netanyahu, and it's kind of amazing how you can speak about Israel and the failures. Like you can't trace back to October 7th where we failed if you leave out our senior political leadership. It's kind of ludicrous, but there are other elements involved here.
Yeah.
And as I'm kind of galloping around the country, kind of like Paul Revere, it does amaze me how many people, trying to think of how to say this. It amazes me why more people aren't more involved.
Yeah. Uh,
And I
and
just don't understand that.
what would Paul? I know what Paul is, Shaul. What would Paul Revere be in Hebrew?
No idea.
Okay, you got to figure that out so we can get you a T-shirt.
No,
Uh,
please don't. I've had people make up wacky t-shirts
that
for me over
is,
the
yeah, I
years.
know. I have a few of those too. That was a joke, Hanok. That was a
No,
joke.
no, no.
Uh, this thing about putting Israel first. This is something that causes issues. I find myself being put into the middle of this because in the end, I don't put America first.
Yeah,
And the reason is because this book is my standard.
yeah.
And so if this book is my standard, I am not allowed to put America first. I must put Israel first. Because there is one who also said that he does this. This week's Torah portion, one of my favorite verses in all of Scripture, is in chapter 11 of Devarim. It is a land Adonai your Elohim cares for. The eyes of Adonai your Elohim are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Let us not forget that this book that we say that we believe in and follow is written with an Israel first narrative.
It's interesting when I speak of people's inactivity or seemingly unwillingness to engage, it's not because they're busy, at least the ones I've encountered, making America great again or making America first.
Yeah.
They're really they're narcissistic. It's about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, as I've said before, when people will drive with me in the car, they'll drive me 20 minutes around as they're searching for which gas station within a 3 mile radius has it 4 cents a gallon cheaper.
And
And I could have told them to just go to Costco. You'll get I know that.
yeah.
But here, the thing is, ultimately you can't lead someone where they don't want to go. That's a fact. Um,
Somebody may
Israel,
think that you're making this up, Hanok, but I literally was somewhere, and before I left, the person said, "Now you need to go to this gas station. I know
yeah.
it may be a little bit out of your way, but you need to go to this gas station because gas is a penny cheaper."
Now, what you've spent on your gas to go out of the way to get there is irrelevant.
Besides your time.
Um, so when people say, "Gee, I was watching, the Israel update, and I check out Mike's other broadcasts, and I just don't have the bandwidth for it."
Yeah.
But you have the bandwidth to memorize gas prices, between your county and the next one. I really, ultimately, people do what they want to do. They're into what they want to, and you know what? I have found so many people selectively quoting from the Tanakh, from the Hebrew Bible. They pick a verse or two or three or four or five that suits them and their mindset at that moment, and all of a sudden that becomes the case. So of course, and they shouldn't bring this up to me. They really shouldn't. Because I'll say, well, remember in July we had Parshat Pinchas? Pinchas. And then they'll look at me blankly. I'll say, and then I'll remember it's Phineas in English, in the translations people read. I said, that's like, yo, Mike, loan me your spear for a moment. This is a time for action, not a time for, well, I'll think of, and that's the same thing with going to Israel. There are people who actually think that we've got tanks rolling down the streets.
Yeah.
They refuse to read the actual Israeli news sources. They will rather whine to me that they can't trust CNN. I've never watched CNN. Back when I was an American, I never watched CNN. Why would people even think of saying something like that?
You should
And
see the looks on people's faces these days when I say that God willing in November I'm taking my grandson to Israel.
yeah, people have, and when
Yeah.
people say, well, is it safe? And I said, can you please tell me the last time you remember hearing that a tourist was hurt in Israel?
Yeah. As opposed to Cincinnati, Texas, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah, I know. Uh, I think this, the festival should bring us to a point, especially these fall festivals, should bring us to a place that each of us spends a little bit of time, or a lot of time, just looking at our own priorities, asking ourselves,
Yeah.
am I going in the right direction? Is this book that I say that I follow, am I really following it? Or as you said, am I picking out? And I think that's true for anybody. I mean, I got to do the same thing. Just to say that I live a life that's unbiased in any way, absolutely not. But I want to be biased regarding the right
Yeah.
things. That's my goal, is to be biased toward the things that he is biased, or as he would say, quoting Pincus there, of he is entered into my zealousness.
Yeah.
I want to be zealous for what he's zealous for.
Agreed.
Yeah. All
All
right,
right,
man.
man. To be continued. Bye-bye.
Later.